Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast for fans of the Detroit Lions and all Detroit sports and other sports around the state of Michigan. My name is Demetrius. I appreciate you being with me. I hope you enjoy today's podcast. We got to give the shout out as always to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. Today I got to do a better job at promoting and telling you where to find us. Facebook, Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. Kool-Aid is Coolade for obvious trademark reasons. Twitter, now the feeds will be up on Twitter, and there's a YouTube channel. Those of you who listen frequently probably know where to find us. If you're new, thanks for listening. I hope you like it. I'm just a guy from Michigan who loves my teams, particularly the Honolulu Blue and Silver. And since anybody anywhere can do a podcast, I figure why not blame Mike for that. It's fun. I hope you like it. In general, this is a Lions podcast, but while the NFL does dominate the entire calendar, I love the Pistons. I love the Tigers. I watch the Red Wings. I will expand the podcast to just keep doing them now randomly on a Thursday. I'll do them on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So hopefully you subscribe in one of the ways and you get the notification, hey, there's going to be a podcast dropping tomorrow or the next day or whatever. And hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you hit me on the Twitter feed and let me know what you like, what you don't like. Doesn't mean I'm going to do anything, but it's interesting information. Some of you that have an appreciation for maize and blue may not particularly like the shirt, but it's all love. There's no point unless we're playing each other for us to have that kind of hatred. So hopefully if we all love the Lions, we can set that stuff aside. Today I just felt like wearing one of my new shirts. So it's going to expand. We're transitioning. We're going to talk college basketball. Football is always around, so we'll be able to do it. We'll have free agency. We'll have the draft. We'll have combines. We'll have random Lions news. We'll have news about other teams, right? But I didn't do one after the final game against the Packers because I wanted to hear the end of year press conference by the GM. I personally just think there's some value there, and I'm going to talk about that today. Today we're going to talk heavy Lions. I'm going to touch on basketball a little bit at the end, but it's heavy Lions, right? The season. I'll touch on the last game. Where are they? This is a Lions podcast. If you're listening, you know what this is, and you probably like the Lions. So, you should be fine. And you might have opinions that are different than mine. I'm fine with that. I always want to hear about it, but the NFL is like a year-round machine. Their business model doesn't really give us a window to ignore them. I am struggling with a little bit of throat today, so you're going to see me drinking some tea throughout this show. I appreciate the understanding on that. So let's touch on the Packer game. They finished out the regular season with a 37-30 win over the Packers. The Packers JV squad. Let's be honest. I'm fine with that. But we have to also be honest. Anytime you beat the Packers, it's good. I don't really care. I don't really care about the JV squad who played, who didn't. It doesn't matter. Beating the Packers is beating the Packers. Period. End of paragraph. We don't have to spend a lot of time on that. I will just tell you that any win over the Packers is a good win. That's specifically to Chris. But as for this season, like there's a way you can look at it, and everyone's different. I have my way of looking at it, and I understand that it is laced in piping hot blue cornbread and silver Kool-Aid. I don't know if I drink silver Kool-Aid though. We might try it one day. It might be interesting. I'll do a show drinking some silver Kool-Aid. There was a time though, Thanksgiving night, this team was 0-10-1. Right. And I know you can go back and remember how you felt after that game. Right. I can tell you where I was. I was at a place where I wanted Dan Campbell fired, not just as the offensive coordinator, a play caller. I was freaking out about play calling. I believe I did a podcast after that game where I called for his job. I thought he was being a bad leader. I think that whole podcast was all Dan Campbell being a bad leader for taking over play calling. I thought he was horrible at it. I wanted him fired. And I don't do a deal where, I owe you an apology. No. On Thanksgiving night, you sucked. You sucked as a play caller. I think you have admitted that. I think anybody who has a modicum of logic and reasoning would agree with me that at that point in time, it was reasonable to call for his job. After that, they finished 3-3. Now you might say, why are you excited about 3-3? At the beginning of the year, I talked consistently about the record doesn't matter. The record doesn't matter. And through the year, I wavered and I was pissed when they were 0-8. I was very, very upset when they were 0-10-1. Even though I continued to say, look, this is about development and improvement, development and improvement. But I really believe now that when you take that step back and you think about the team that took the field week 1 and the team that played the Packers on Sunday, in its totality, if you think about everything, are they better? Are they the team as it was it better? Did you see development? And if you don't, we just don't see things the same way, and that's okay. That's okay. I respectfully disagree with you. But now I'm going to take like a half hour and tell you why I'm right and you're wrong. So, because that's what you get to do. So, and there are people who just go, that's crap. The record's the record. They're 3-13-1. And I would say that person, you're absolutely right. They're 3-13-1. But I will say to you, the team that, the team that took the field week 6, week 7, whatever, that's not the team that finished the year. And you might say, so what? They're 3-13-1. They're picking second in the draft. Doesn't matter. That they are what their record says they are. And there are people who believe that. I'm not one of them. I will say to you, they are not the team that lost by 3 touchdowns to the Bengals. They're not the team that let the Eagles put up a 44 burger on them and lost by, 38 or whatever it was, 44-6. That's not the same team that I watched the last 6 weeks. And you might say, okay, but why does that matter? Why does that matter? It matters because it's a sign. It's what we asked for. It's what I asked for. I wanted them to get better. My expectations were develop young players, get better. And early in the season, we knew they were talent deficient. That's the term I kept using. This is a talent deficient team. And then that talent deficient team, that team that wasn't very good, suffered some really bad injuries. They were 5th in the league in man games lost, 243 man games lost. And I contend it's probably worse than that because of the people they lost. I don't care what you think of Jeff Okudah. We don't know what he is now because of that injury. He might be good, he might not. You don't know, and I don't know. But it's important that we lost Jeff Okudah for that season. Romeo Okwara, quite possibly the best defense player on the team, missed significant time. Decker missed a bunch of games. Pro Bowl center Ragnow missed a bunch of games. Whatever you think of Trey Flowers missed a bunch of games. And then in the season, they lost Amani. They lost Hawkinson. They lost Swift for a bunch of games. They lost Jamal Williams for games. And they lost Goff for a few games. And whatever you think of Goff. So when I look at it from that perspective, like with the beginning of the season, this talent deficient team that had a bunch of injuries. And then I say to myself, they at the end of the season were a much better team. Did I see improvement? Did I see development? That's the word I'm going to use, development. The answer is yes. The answer is an emphatic yes. I saw development in the players. I saw development in the defensive scheme. And most importantly, I saw development in the head coach. Not only do I not want him fired now, I think I want him to keep calling plays, which I'm shocked that I feel that way. But I saw development. And I remember how I felt on Thanksgiving night. I remember wanting him fired, questioning his game management, struggling with the play calling. And then I sit here now saying, not only do I not want him fired as a head coach, I think I want him to keep calling plays, is interesting, right? Because we saw players get better. We did. Charles Harris got better. Penei Sewell got better. He went from starting right tackle in camp after playing left tackle in college. And then I'm trying to do what Brad Holmes did in his press conference yesterday, and I'm not doing it well. Played left tackle in college, got drafted at right, worked at right. Decker gets hurt. He moves back to left. Decker comes back. He moves back to right, and he didn't miss a beat. quietly, which is what it should be for an offensive lineman. Penei Sewell had a solid rookie season. We are set on the right at the right tackle position. We had a really good offensive line, quite frankly, because there were other guys who stepped up during injuries and quietly did a good job. They did, but I saw improvement. I saw Penei Sewell get better, which is scary because he's still scratching the surface. I saw Jalen Reeves-Maybin get better. I saw guys like Jerry Jacobs come off the street and get better. You know, I can honestly say I saw them objectively get better. And I didn't even mention Amon-Ra St. Brown because that's just too obvious, too easy, that's a win. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he is not even, he is still scratching the surface, right? He far exceeded anybody's expectation, right? And how much better if they had a number one would he be? Because I don't consider him a number one. I'm saying a fourth round pick that turned into a really good 80 plus catch slot guy that commands attention. That's what he is. Imagine if they acquire a number one. What does that do for him? Now you got a safety that has to focus on that number one. That makes him better. It makes Hockenson better. It makes Josh Reynolds and Quintez Cephas better, right? So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's the easy one. I think they got the kicker situation settled. They got this kid, Riley Patterson, and he seems like he's solid there. And as controversial as it may be, and I'm going to take a sip before, as much as some of you guys may disagree or not like it, the really hard truth, and this might be just to my brother, the really hard truth, Kenny, is that Jared Goff got better. Jared Goff got better. I think he and Dan Campbell got on the same page at some point, and he got better. And it could have just been a guy coming to a new city, all the things that go with that, a new system, a new team that doesn't have a lot of talent, and he just got comfortable. I like the Jared Goff I saw play his last 4 or 5 games. And if you give him weapons, I'm sorry, I'm comfortable. I don't think they need to address the quarterback situation in the offseason. I think that's a minority opinion. Without question, that's a minority opinion. I don't think they need to address the quarterback situation this offseason. Now, the backup quarterback situation, you can address that. Maybe. I'm not against assistant Tim Boyle, Jeff Boyle, no, Jeff Blau, Tim Boyle. That's how bad it is, right? That was just a slip, a mental slip there. I think that you can address the backup quarterback situation relatively easily, right? So the question really, though, is about, do you draft? We're going to talk some draft later, but so I'll give you one exception. If you've got a first round grade or like an early second round grade on one of these guys, and we're sitting, you get to 66, your first third round pick, or your second one at 98, and a guy that you put a first round grade on is still on the board, then you do it. You do it for value. You don't do it because you think this is the guy that is destined to replace Goff. And maybe he is, but it's about value. So yeah, if you get to 66 and there isn't a great linebacker, there isn't a great safety, there isn't a great anything else, and the highest rated player on your board is one of these quarterbacks, whether it's a Desmond Ridder or Sam Howell, like people are all in love with Sam Howell. So, and these guys might go. These guys might go early second. I don't know. Even Carson Strong out of Nevada, who I actually like. I don't like him at 34. I don't like him at 34. But if you get to 66 or God forbid 98 and somebody that you have a high grade on is there, don't be scared to take them, right? But we'll talk a little bit more about draft strategy in a minute. I would also like you to consider this. And this is the full-on piping hot cornbread and juicy, sweet, delicious, ice cold Kool-Aid portion of the podcast. There was some objective reasoning behind the first 15 minutes of this podcast. I'm about to get straight cornbread on you now. So if you're one of those people, you can take a break. Come back in about 5 minutes. I'll give you time. I suggest to you that the Bears fired their coach and GM, and the Vikings fired their coach. So they got major shakeups. Green Bay may have a new quarterback next year. What does that mean? Now, if you're like me, you honestly don't see this as a 3-11-1 team. You view this for what they really are. Likely a 6-11 team, potentially even a 7-10 team. I could go through the deal where I could find 4 wins. The tie could obviously have been a win. I could say to you, first Minnesota, Baltimore, and something that's slipping my mind that they lost late on a bad play. Who was it? I'll figure it out later. I would contend to you that there were 4 more wins on the schedule, a play here, a play there, a bad coaching decision here, there, a golf mistake here or there, things that can be fixed, can be cleaned up, can be better with additional talent, growth, and time, right? So if I said to you, they were actually a 6-11-1 team, and that team is coming back in a division where potentially all the other teams in the division are going to take a major step back. I don't know that Minnesota or Chicago are so good that just changing coaches propels them, that makes them better. I don't know that. I don't know that the talent's there to make them better. I predicted Minnesota would take a step back, specifically defensively. I predicted Mike Zimmer wouldn't make it through the year. I'm not surprised. Everybody predicted Matt Nagy would get fired. So these things are surprising. So as I believe the Lions are ascending, I believe both the Bears and Vikings are descending, are spiraling down to, and with the Bears, it's simple. It is, did they get the quarterback right? If their turnaround can be quick if Justin Fields is what they thought he was. And if they can now surround him with talent and make smart decisions with their cap and their roster to surround Justin Fields with talent, the Bears turnaround could be quick. But they also have some albatross-like contracts on their defensive side of the football. So I don't know if they even have the flexibility to do that. Somebody going to take Khalil Mack off their hands? I don't know. Minnesota, I just think, is coming down, and they have to bottom out and get better again. That's how the league works. No, they could, but except they got Kirk Cousins' contract hanging over their heads like an albatross. There's the thing. The Lions don't have that contract hanging over them like an albatross that limits the number of ways they can get better, right? Minnesota and Chicago both have contracts like that, whether it's Khalil Mack or Kirk Cousins or others. It limits who they can acquire. It limits re-signing your own players. It limits movement in trades that could acquire you talent or draft picks. The Green Bay question is simple. If Aaron Rodgers isn't their quarterback, they're the team we played in the second half. They're the team essentially that we beat 4 days ago. I'll take my chances in that division, right? If he's in Denver, I don't know why I'm stuck on Rodgers going to Denver. If he leaves, the Packers are the team we played in the second half. Now, that assumes they don't take the money and go acquire another really good quarterback, and Jordan Love's their quarterback. But I don't know that you spend your first round pick and then you don't make Jordan Love your quarterback. But I'll play the Jordan Love-led Packers every day and twice on Sunday. And I like our chances. So if you really believe the Lions are 6-11-1, 6-11 or 7-10, which is really saying they're not as bad as their record suggests, they're closer to being good than they are to being horrible, then you understand and appreciate the benefit of the second pick because of these bad break losses. You see the potential they have and how they could get there. I think it's interesting that all 3 other teams could potentially take a step back and what that means for the division and how much fun it could be. I would like to predict some ridiculousness, but I'm going to resist the temptation. Not saying I won't do it after free agency or the draft. And if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, that draft show is going to be fun. That post-draft show is going to be great. But at the end of the day, I like that I feel they got better. Faced all the challenges they faced. I think there were players that got better. I think the coach got better. I think they found a star in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think Jared Goff can be my quarterback next year. That doesn't mean he's going to lead them to a Super Bowl. Doesn't mean he's better than Stafford. That's a gratuitous Stafford mention. But it means that I'm fine with him now. There's nobody in this draft I'm willing to take at 2, which says to me there's no star in this draft. If there was a difference maker, you take him at 2. If you grade somebody out as a difference maker, you do all this and you go, wow, Kenny Pickett is way better than you take Pickett at 2. If you think he's that, My guess is you sit back in the meetings and you see that Jared Goff got better, and you say, we got other holes. We can make the team better, and we can work with Jared Goff as our quarterback. And I know that's not popular, but that's where I feel. The reality, though, is my second point is my man is on the clock now. It's Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes on the clock. It's time to shine. This is the hire. I did a podcast 2 years ago where I said the most important person in any football organization is not the quarterback. It is not the left tackle. It is not the head coach. It is the guy responsible for procuring talent, whether he's called a GM, a VP of player personnel, whatever the case may be. It's the talent procurement guy, right? And we broke down all the ways to procure talent. You can make trades. You can sign free agents. You can draft people. We talked about the Lions' history of horrifying job performance there. Way back, I went old dude back to Russ Thomas, who by all accounts was a good friend of William Clay Ford, but was cheap back before free agency worked the way it did and the cap worked the way it did. It was just a matter of paying people. And guys would leave here and go, the Lions are cheap. And other guys would not come here because they were told that the Lions were cheap. But then you get to Chuck Schmidt, who was, by all accounts, a finance guy, right? And he made really, those were the golden years. Let's be honest. Chuck Schmidt's tenure had playoffs. Chuck Schmidt's tenure had division championship. Had Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, Chris Spielman, and Benny Blades, Lomas Brown, Kevin Glover. There were great players on Chuck Schmidt teams. I don't badmouth. I've never badmouthed Chuck Schmidt, and I will not. Chuck Schmidt gave me the best years I've ever had as a Lions fan. Sorry. And then someone uttered the statement, you need to get a football guy to run your football team. Not sure who the person who said that was, but you suck. Because of that, Mr. Ford listened to people who he thought he could trust and listen to, and he hired Matt Millen, and we know how that went. And then when Millen left, they hired Martin Mayhew. Mayhew wasn't bad at the job. Mayhew made two huge mistakes. We've talked about these. Mayhew completely punted on the 2012 draft. And what I mean was, I'm going to say 18 months, 2 years later, he had not a single player from that entire draft. And I'm not going through it again. I did a whole podcast on that. His other mistake was simple. He took Eric Ebron, and Aaron Donald was still on the board. That's the thing that fans and people in the know could never get over. You can't watch Aaron Donald moonwalk into the Hall of Fame. Think about that we took Eric Ebron. That's just tough. So then Mrs. Ford listened to someone who said, find a team with lineage, hire one of their next in line guys, and be the next Team X. Team X happened to be the Patriots. This led to Bob Quinn getting hired. And I've told you how I felt about that hire. My understanding is that they talked to Ernie Accorsi. He gave them 3 names. They talked to 3 people and hired Bob Quinn. That proved not to work. And so what I love about almost everything that Sheila's done, Sheila Fordham, is she did everything different. Right. And we're not going to go through the whole Sheila thing, but ultimately the group of people she put together were really smart guys. Mark Hollis, Disner, Spielman, Bear, all these people on this committee, they settled on Brad Holmes. Now, I think that's a lot of smart people, including Sheila and Rod Wood on this committee. They decided Brad Holmes was the guy. I have confidence in that. I like his first draft. I do. St. Brown's a good pick. I think both the defensive linemen are going to prove out to be pretty good players. Penei Sewell was easy, but good. And I think Derek Barnes will eventually be okay. And I still like Jamar Jefferson. I think his first draft was good with the potential to be very good. If Derek Barnes turns out to be something and one of those tackles, Aleem McNeil or Levi Onwuzurike, turns out to be really good, that's going to end up being a great draft. And that's a draft he didn't have time to prep for. I mean, he was in a new place just learning how to drive to McDonald's, right? So now Brad Holmes is on the clock. This is what we were told he's here for. Draft prep, finding late round picks. Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to indicate he is good at that. Maybe it's just receivers, maybe not. But he had his end of year press conference yesterday. and he talked about a number of things, right? They were important. Right? He talked at length about the culture. Right? One of the questions he was asked was, how do you sell free agents? I don't know if his job is to sell free agents. I think what he says to them is simple. We're building something. You can look and see. Even look at our losses. Look at 4 or 5 of our losses. You will see that we fought. People love Dan Campbell. I have grown to really like Dan Campbell. People in the business love Dan Campbell. Players love Dan Campbell. He doesn't have to sell much, right? You can see he might sell what I just said 5 minutes ago, which is the Bears and Vikings are about to be disasters, and Aaron Rodgers is leaving Green Bay. We're about to be the team, right? I joked on previous podcasts that I'm excited about the 2023 North champion Detroit Lions. I'm going to take a drink before I say the ridiculous. If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, I don't know that. No, I can't do it. I want to do it, but I'm not going to do it. He doesn't have to sell. He talked about culture, right? And I think it's important. People watch and people listen to what's being said about the coach and the way things are here. And there's a really important thing about when they got that first win and Goff ran off and immediately hugged the coach, right? He was happy for the coach. The team gave the coach the game ball, right? You might not think that's a big deal. You might think, so what? They won 3 games. What are you doing right now? Because I'm talking about culture. I'm not talking about record. I'm not talking about wins and losses. I don't really care about wins and losses. I never did. I like what I saw in that these guys played for him. People like to drop on sports radios like they don't play for this guy and the players won't play for him. These players played hard for Dan Campbell. And if you don't think there's value in that, you're missing it. You're missing it. Because when they get talent, that's going to be a big deal. And Brad Holmes talked about that. He talked about the advantage to coaching the Senior Bowl. The Lions coaching staff are going to be coaching the Senior Bowl this week. That's an advantage. You know, I guarantee you there's going to be some player, one of their picks, one of the guys they draft, and they're going to come to the podium afterwards and they're going to say, yeah, we had him down at the Senior Bowl. It's like additional scouting with some really good players, and it's going to pay dividends. It almost always does. He also referenced being in a better position than last year. That's the term he used. He was kind of being coy, you know, because it sounds like he meant, you know, I had just started last year. I've been here a year. I have more experience. You know, I'm not new anymore. And he had a head start on scouting and all that. And I think he meant all those things. He definitely meant those things. But I think there was a subtle underlying thing. I think because he appears to be a humble guy who really appreciates the opportunity, right? And all that. He's very big on thanking everyone responsible. I think underlying message was, watch what I do with this cap space and all these draft picks. Yeah, I got cap space and I got draft picks. Watch what I do now. And I think he sits around at his desk and he's giddy. He is like, I had 33 million in cap space. I got 5 of the top 100 picks. Oh, it's on now, right? It's on now. And I think for him, there's a bit of like, okay, you can question me if you want to, right? But I think what he was really underlying, he was humble bragging, like, I got cap space and draft picks. We are about to get busy. So let's talk cap space, right? Right now they have 33 million in cap space. It puts them in the middle of the pack, somewhere around middle of the pack in the league. It's a good number. You know, you're not going to sign 18 players, right? You can sign a big free agent. You can sign an $18 million receiver, or you can sign a couple guys. You can sign some guys to some 1-year deals or something like that, 13, 14 million, and get talent while you're building, right? They have an opportunity to pick up more space, specifically with Trey Flowers and Vitae, right? I think you can pick up another 16 or so million if you cut those guys after June 1st. There'll be a dead money hit, but the plus on that, I think, is about 16 million on your cap. So you have the ability to, let's say you draft one of the ends at number 2. You can afford to move on from, that's the new hotness, right? Move on from Trey Flowers. No, nothing wrong, no disrespect. He was brought in by a different regime to play in a different scheme. And quite frankly, he can't stay healthy I like Trey Flowers. I can't say healthy though. So you move on from Trey Flowers, and if you feel like you have solid backup guard play, you can move on from that contract that Bob Quinn gave Vitae and free up some cap space. They have flexibility as it relates to the cap. So let's say they can sign 3 significant free agents. The flexibility that gives him, right? If you consider, you could be skeptical. You can say, look, last year he signed Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perriman. Look how that worked out. Well, I will check you with Jamal Williams and Charles Harris. The first 2 guys you're talking about didn't cost much, didn't hurt them financially. They were both 1-year deals. They were both sort of, it's just money, because it is a lot of money, but it doesn't hurt them now. Neither of those deals impact their caps now. And I think Jamal Williams was valuable, and I think Charles Harris was a steal. For what they paid him, he's a find. So I think you can be lukewarm. You can say, he hasn't proven anything from a free agent standpoint, and I'll let you do that. That's fine. But I think you got to dig deeper, right? There's a degree of crapshoot to free agency in general. But understand what Stafford's contracts, Stafford's dead money. He wasn't in the ball game for big name free agents. He didn't have that kind of money. He could not do some of the things that would have been lower risk. He had to do some high risk, high reward stuff. If Tyrell Williams doesn't get a concussion, who knows the impact he has on the team? We don't know. If Brashad Perriman doesn't get beat out, and you just eat that money and go, wait a minute, I'd rather play Khalif Raymond. I'd rather play Quintez Cephas than this veteran who might not be a part of the long-term rebuild. But with the resources they have now, they can take a different approach. I'm not saying they're going to go out and offer Devontae, right? Because Devontae is going to cost $23 million. And we're not putting 23. I shouldn't say that. If they go out and sign Devontae Adams, great. I don't think they would, right? But I think it's going to be a level above the Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perrimans. Like I said, Devontae is going to cost you 23, 24. That's not where we are. We can't do that. But can you offer Mike Williams 17? Can you offer Chris Godwin 17? Maybe. If you want and you feel like it, you can. And you don't think those guys will make a difference? You don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown is better if Mike Williams is lined up at the X? Or Godwin is on the field? You don't think Hawkinson's better? Of course. I think you got the money to do that kind of stuff, right? You can commit 17, 18 million to a receiver. That's not my preference, actually. I'm just saying they could do that. My preference is addressing the draft. But if you're going to go free agency, a Michael Gallup might cost you 13. I wouldn't frown at that deal. You upgrade the position, you upgrade the receiver room. Now, if you sign Michael Gallup and then draft a receiver in the 3rd round also, or 2nd round also, that's the kind of move I make. Right? I would put my free agent money in other places. There's a linebacker, Devondre Campbell. I like him. You can get him for $8 million. Casey Hayward Jr., cornerback from the Raiders, same type of price tag. Those are the signings I do. I do 3 or 4. I like Jesse Bates, the Bengals safety. That'll be a great upgrade. He probably will get franchised, actually. He might get franchised. So, but those are the kinds of signings I think. And then you draft to build this foundation. I don't think you blow your whole cap on one guy. If Devontae Adams would come here and you could get 20, I'd give him 23 million. I mean, he's got to sign a 5-year deal, so he's going to be here when we're good, because I believe we'll be good next year. I think if you sign Devontae, you'll be good this coming year. All those are the kinds of things that there was this sort of smile that Brad Holmes was doing when he was talking about, recruiting people to come here. Nah, the culture does the recruiting. No, ultimately winning does the recruiting. The culture helps. And he doesn't have to do anything like that. So, I mean, there are guys out there. I mean, that's just my opinion, right? I think Jesse Bates is good, but the Bengals will probably franchise him. I think you need to upgrade at linebacker, and Campbell would be a good fit. And if you can get him for 7 or 8 million, that's a great type of signing, right? Contracts are smart. Rebuilds, you can't see. One of my biggest issues with Quinn is the Vitae contract. That it was 5 years and that it was so cap impacting. I thought that was a really, really albatross-like contract. And none of that is to say Vitae played very well at right guard this year. He was supposed to be the answer at tackle. Instead, you had to draft a right tackle. Why? Because he might be your answer at guard. I don't know that you should pay a guard that much. I don't know that that's a healthy thing. If you got to look at how was Evan Brown fit and how's McCollum play, right? Do you draft a guard? I don't know. So I think that bad contracts can really impact you. And I think I don't think Brad Holmes loves that Vitae contract. I got to be honest. So there's things they can do in free agency because they've got 30 million. They've got the flexibility to create another, I don't know, 14, 15. And I'm just talking two guys. There's other guys they can move, but there's impact. I think Trey Flowers and Vitae are the two that make the most sense to me. And if I'm off on the number, fine. My sources, based on how I understand the cap to work and the dead money, is they could free up 15 plus million with two post June 1st cuts. And that's the kind of smart thing you do when you're in a rebuild. So now let's talk draft, the other thing. And you could do trades, but I don't know if they're going to trade anybody. So let's talk draft. And nobody in the world loves to talk draft more than me. I won't do a lot because there's going to be a draft podcast, obviously. So I can't go too deep. And again, excuse me, I'm trying to nurse the throat with the drink. I won't go too deep for two main reasons. There's so much we don't know, right? Still got to do Senior Bowl. You got to do private workouts. Got the combine. The evaluation period is just getting going. So I can't sit here and act like, oh, I can rank. There are guys producing mock drafts. And that's fun to look at. That's great stuff to look at. They will vary wildly because the critical information isn't in yet. You need the data from the combine. You need the data from private workouts. You need to see what the Senior Bowl looks like. And Senior Bowl practices are televised. And guess who's watching them? Your boy. Guess who's going to watch the Senior Bowl? Right. And it's all about the Lions. Now, understanding they have 5 of the top 100 picks. 2, 28, 34, 66, and 98. So if I mention those numbers, that's what I'm talking about. First round pick at 2, their own. The Rams pick in the first at 28. Their own second at 34, and then 2/3. 66, I think, is theirs, and 98 might be the Rams, might be somebody. Could be Eagles from Darius Slay, or I don't even remember. But they got 5 of the top 100. Now, if you don't believe 100 players helps, guess where Amon-Ra St. Brown was drafted? Right, not in the top 100. Right, you can find impactful contributions in the top 100. So we're going to work from. They can do a couple of signings and they can draft 5 players that can impact. The pick at 2 better be a star. The pick at 28 and 34, those should be major contributors. Those should be, 3 of these players should just be instant starters, right? But we don't know yet. So I'm not going to drop names. We'll save that for the draft show. The other thing is we don't know the impact of free agency. Doing a projection right now before they sign any free agents doesn't make a lot of sense. What if they get crazy and go sign Clowney to a mercenary deal, 1 year, whatever, or Randy Gregory? I don't think either of those guys fits the culture. I'm not sure I want either one of those guys, but I'm just making a point. Do we then start to wonder what they're going to do at 2? If they sign a defensive end, do we wonder what they're going to do? We have to wonder what they're going to do too, right? You know, and that's not even consistent with what they've done. So I don't expect either of those things to happen. I'm a fan of the trade down and get value. And I think this draft is good for that. I don't have a problem if I hear an announcement that they move off of 2, they move down to 4 or 5 or 6, and we end up getting Stingley Jr. or Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, and more assets. I believe in Brad Holmes. But even if they don't move, he's sitting there cheesing, thinking, I'm getting 5 of the top 100, and I don't have to do anything. All I got to do is trust my scouts, trust our evaluation process, trust our technology, and I'm going to add 5 really good players in late April to a team that I have told you I think is a 6-11 team in a division that is falling apart around them. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, right? Adding even 4. Let's assume you don't hit on all 5. If you had 4 plus 2 free agents, that's 6 really good players to a team that has a solid culture. And again, is in a division that's falling apart around them. I'm just saying, right? I know what I'm doing. I know what you're thinking, but I'm just saying. I'm excited, right? But at the end of the day, Brad Holmes, you're on the clock. You're on the clock, bro. It's your time. So that's that we're gonna put that wrap up on the Lions season and kind of leave it there. I want to touch base on some basketball, pro and college, because it's starting to heat up. The podcast has got to transition, right? Because the Lions are done. So I got to be ready to talk other stuff. I'm a baseball guy, and when the Tigers come around, we'll be talking because they're on the ascend. They're doing some good stuff. I like their off season, and I think that they're going to give us an exciting summer. But until then, you got the Pistons and you got March Madness. So I'm going to start to incorporate and when it needs to be talked about, I have no problem giving you a hockey segment, even if you guys don't like it. That's fine. But let's talk some Pistons, right? So so it seems like things haven't accelerated as quickly as we thought. Right. I was excited, and I'm still excited. I think there may be a year behind, but it's a different sport, right? The NBA, you can turn around pretty quick, but they lost their first four. They lost 8 of the first 9. Then they gave us a nice 14-game losing streak, and I'm sitting there on December 1st, on January 1st, and I'm like, they're 5-28. What the hell's going on? And so now the Lions are winding down, so I'm shifting my focus. It's like a thing that shifts. The Lions are playing exciting football late, but I'm starting to pay more attention to the Pistons. So then they went 4 of 6 before they took this beat down in Chicago, which was the second night of a back-to-back, and Chicago is one of the best teams in the league, and the Pistons were tired. That was a legitimate beatdown. It looked like what it was. But prior to that, they won games over San Antonio, Milwaukee, and Utah. So the word I want to use is flashes. See flashes. You're starting to see flashes. I think that they're still learning how to play together, but they're still building, and they're super young. They're so young. And they had executed the trade with Denver, but shortly before the podcast, I saw that they voided it. He didn't pass his physical. So for those of you like my brother who were excited at the idea of 7-2 bowl throwing on a Piston uniform and what that might mean, it would have been interesting, but something was wrong with the physical, so they voided that trade, so it's not going to happen. I think the trade deadline might be February 2nd or 12th. 2nd. I'm going to say the trade deadline's coming up. I think they're going to be active. I think they're a team that has some contracts that people like. I think Jeremy Grant's name pops up a lot. I think Kelly Olynyk's name might come up, but I think they've got the kind of contracts that people are interested in. And I think Troy Weaver is proven to be really smart. And this build takes time, and you can be disappointed right now, but I think he has an established track record of knowing what he's doing. He'll do some smart stuff. And this is the deal where when the jump happens, it'll be quick. You won't even notice. And all of a sudden, right, the Pistons are good, and it probably won't be this year, but it'll be a huge jump and it'll be quick. And you think about, because if you think about the pieces that they do have, no matter how you feel about these guys, I don't know who doesn't like Cade Cunningham. I don't know who you are, but okay. Sadiq Bey, I like. Sadiq Bey can shoot the basketball. I like what Isaiah Stewart brings. I like Killian Hayes. I think these pieces can work together. And you're going to probably get a lottery pick this year. Blake Griffin's money comes off your books, so you're going to have some cap flexibility this summer. The foundational pieces are there. This is where you add now. Cade, Sadiq, Stewart, Killian Hayes, the lottery pick that's coming, whether it's the super tall, skinny kid from Gonzaga. Chet Holmgren is his name. I guess you should keep that in mind. Obviously, the kid from Duke is solid, and we'll get into that in June. But they're going to add another foundational piece, and you're going to have this group of young players, 5, 6, 7 players, with the Saban Lees and guys like that, glue guys. Shout out to my friend Bill Carroll. You're going to have these glue guys and this foundational set of talent that will be appealing for superstars, a star to come to. And then you'll have the money, because Blake won't be hanging around your neck anymore, that you can pay somebody to do that. You can build around the young nucleus like this. They take some patience. We got to keep our eye on what happens during this trade deadline, what they do in the offseason. But I want to see from the Pistons in the last quarter of the season what I saw from the Lions in the last quarter of their season, their last 6 games. I want to see the same thing. I mean, scratch the Denver game. It was a COVID mess, Broncos out in Denver when they took one. But that was a unique deal. But I like, as a team, what I saw from the Lions at the end of this. If we see the same thing from the Pistons, you can project for the exact same reasons. With the Lions, it's Stafford money coming off the cap, getting cap flexibility, and really good draft capital. Same thing with the Pistons. Blake Griffin's money comes off the books. You have a high draft pick. You have an opportunity to improve quickly, right? I think I want to see the same thing. And I've been saying it's starting. This is the time. Detroit sports is about to get really hot because the Wings are quietly doing the same thing. And even though people can't stand Al Avila, I think the Tigers are on the same pace. I've consistently said 2023 is going to be a fantastic sports year in Detroit. And I still say it will. So we're going to add Piston talk to the rotation, because they can get better fast just by sheer numbers. You only have 15 players on the roster. If you've got a core of 4 or 5 and you add 2 really good players, just like that, you're a playoff team. And other teams are going to start to get old. These teams like Brooklyn, the Lakers, some of these teams are going to start to get old. They're going to get old quick and fast. And the Pistons are going to be in this position with all this young talent to rise up. Now, the Bulls are good, and they're not old. They're talented and they're young, so the Bulls are going to be good for a while. But that's okay. A Pistons-Bulls rivalry doesn't bother me one bit. So I'm looking forward to talking more about the Pistons and where they're going. And so then we got to get to college, right? And so again, clearly my allegiance is obvious based on the shirt, and that's okay. That's okay. Doesn't mean I hate anybody or can't talk about anybody. But we're in mid-January, so March Madness is going to be here before we know it. And the Wolverines were ranked 6th at the beginning of the season. They are projected to be one of the top seeds, but they've had their ups and downs. They're reigning Big Ten champs. They got the coach of the year and the number 1 recruiting class, and people are high on them. But it's been a struggle. And a lot of that's COVID, and some of that has just been, I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know. I'm not going to act like I watch them as closely as I watch Michigan State, because I don't. And I don't actually know why a team that had such high expectations is struggling. They're sitting at 7-6. They're 1-2 in the conference. That record probably would be worse, except they missed games against number 7 Purdue and number 10 Michigan State in the last week. I don't know. Now, maybe this COVID break, and they missed games because they canceled them because of COVID. Maybe this COVID break gives them a chance to, I can't imagine, because I don't think they can practice. They literally just didn't have enough players to play. It's not like they're practicing getting better. I think that they got to figure it out, though. They got to figure it out. I still think they're talented and they're well coached. And on a given night, Michigan can be scary. I'm not the guy who's going to say, when they come to Breslin on the 29th of January, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, right? I like my team, right? But maybe the break gives them a chance to figure some stuff out. On a given night, they can play with anybody. And this is a deep league, right? They got 5 teams in the top 25, 2 in the top 10. This is a deep league. But Michigan took a couple double-digit losses, couple beatdowns, but they got to figure it out, because they'll blink and you'll be in mid-February fighting for your tournament life, and you don't want to be there. 7-6 is hard. The league is too deep. They got some tough league games ahead of them. So I actually hope they figure it out. I only root against them twice a year. So that's fine. And I actually really like Jawan, by the way. That's a guy I actually like. So obviously I think the best team in the conference plays in East Lansing, right? 14-2, they done won 9 straight. Their only 2 losses are against top 6 teams. Opening night against number 3 Kansas, and they played horribly and took a beat down against number 6 Baylor. That's a good team. And obviously, I think they've got the best coach, right, in the conference, if not in the country. I love what a February Tom Izzo team will look like when the December/January Tom Izzo team is 14-2 with 2 losses to top 6 teams. I like it. Now, what I like doesn't matter. They got to go to Wisconsin, who's number 13. They got to go to number 25, Illinois. Just here in the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out exactly who the Spartans are. And we're going to blink, and it's going to be March Madness, and it'll be time. But much like the Pistons, I think we're going to transition and talk more basketball, and then pretty soon the baseballs are going to be flying. And while in general, fundamentally, this is a Lions podcast, I love all Detroit sports. We're gonna talk a lot more about a lot of things. So I that's all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, wrapping up the Lions season, starting to get into some basketball. I hope you go to Facebook or YouTube and at Cornbread Pod at Twitter. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel. Give us ideas. We're gonna start including more social media commentary. I know Mike loves that part. Again, shout out to my super producer. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast. It's always fun. We're going to keep doing it, bringing it to you. So enjoy the week. Enjoy this time. Stay safe. Be smart. We can beat this thing. I don't spend a lot of time talking about it. I don't want to sound judgy or whatever. You got to live your life the way you live your life, but be safe and think about other people. This thing is real, and we can get through it. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll be dropping another one soon. So take care and have a good night.